Bill Whitaker on the role of poll watchers in the 2020 election.
The debate over poll watchers is quite contentious this election year and is playing out all across the country. At one of his rallies recently in North Carolina, President Trump asked his supporters to sign up and become poll watchers.
Watch those ballots. I don't like it. You know, you have a Democrat governor, you have all these Democrats watching that stuff. Be poll watchers when you go there. Watch all the thieving and stealing and robbing they do.
Most poll watchers are appointed by the parties, by the Democrats and the Republicans or the candidate, to go monitor, keep an eye on, watch polling places for any sort of irregularities and to make sure that each party has a fair shot at a fair election. Each state has regulations or restrictions or definitions on what poll watchers can do, and they vary from state to state. In some states, they are allowed to challenge a voter. They can ask, is this voter registered in this district? Are you allowed to vote here? Poll workers and poll watchers are different. A poll worker is that person who greets you when you come into the polling place. They're the person who helps you sign in. They're there to answer your questions. A poll watcher is basically there to observe. Also, there is a limited number placed on how many poll watchers can be at a polling site, and that's determined by the state. Well, this year, the issue of poll watchers has become very controversial. And the reason is that there's a history of intimidation. Back in 1981, a gubernatorial race in New Jersey, the Democrats accused the Republicans of trying to suppress minority votes. The Republican National Committee, the RNC, had sent off-duty law enforcement to polling places in Black and Latino neighborhoods. And the Democrats said that it was done with the express purpose of trying to intimidate the Black and brown voters. I spoke with Mark Elias. He is the lead attorney on voting rights for the Democratic Party.
As a result of that despicable activity, they operated under a court order to not engage in voter suppression and ballot security measures, as they call them, for the next several decades.
The RNC agreed to a consent decree in 1982. That consent decree ran out in 2018.
We are about to have our first presidential election without the RNC under that consent decree. So what have we seen? It will recruit 50,000 poll watchers to go and challenge voters at the polls and otherwise try to gum up the works. So I am very worried about it. It's something that I think everyone who cares about voting rights needs to worry about. And it is another example of where the Trump Republican Party, rather than atoning for its shameful history, is doubling down on it.
President Trump has been calling on his supporters at rallies and on Twitter to become poll watchers, to join his Army for Trump. In June, I spoke with Justin Clark. He's the senior counsel and deputy campaign manager for the Donald Trump campaign. You were recorded in Wisconsin speaking about your plans for Republican poll watchers, and you said, let's start playing offense a little bit. That's what you're going to see in 2020. What did you mean by that?
I mean just that. Let's make sure that our voters are protected when they go to the polls, that they know that when they cast their vote, that it counts. I think that we are in a position where we're going to be able to fight to make sure that every single voter is counted evenly and fairly going into the election.
Poll watchers are a vital part of our democracy. They are supposed to keep an eye on how things work and to make sure that the whole election process is transparent, and voters need to know what their rights are and what poll watchers can and can't do.